The morning was set for a cheerful conversation as Meghan Markle joined Mark Consuelos and Kelly Ripa on their popular talk show. The audience cheered as she entered, poised and smiling. But tension simmered beneath the surface. No one expected the polite banter to unravel so quickly into a fiery showdown that would shock viewers and make headlines across the nation. Meghan began with grace, discussing her recent endeavors, charitable work, and her hopes for the future. Mark nodded politely while Kelly tried to keep the tone light. But when Kelly casually mentioned Meghan's departure from royal duties, the Duchess stiffened, and her eyes narrowed ever so slightly. "It's interesting how you gave up everything royal," Kelly said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Meghan laughed lightly, brushing the remark off, but the tone was set. The Duchess replied, "I didn't give up royalty, Kelly. I chose peace. There's a difference." The audience gave a murmur of approval. Mark jumped in, trying to redirect. "So, Meghan, tell us about your new podcast. What's the message you're hoping to spread?" Meghan began outlining her mission of empowerment, especially for women of color. Her passion was evident. But Kelly still had that knowing smirk, waiting to interrupt. When Meghan mentioned institutional biases, Kelly interjected, "You think the monarchy is racist?" The air went cold. Meghan responded cautiously, "I think every institution has room to evolve. That includes the monarchy." Mark's eyes darted nervously toward the camera. Trying to defuse the situation, Mark joked, "Well, maybe the palace should have hired an HR department sooner." The audience chuckled, but Meghan didn't laugh. She leaned forward, voice calm but firm, "It's not funny when your mental health is at stake, Mark." The smile faded from his face. Kelly's tone sharpened. "But you knew what you were marrying into, didn't you?" Meghan countered, "Would you blame a woman for staying silent about abuse just because she walked into a marriage willingly?" Silence. The room tensed. Viewers watching at home sensed the shift. Trying to reframe, Kelly said, "We just think people want honesty. Some say your narrative keeps changing." Meghan's eyes flashed. "My truth has always been the same. Maybe it's the media that keeps rewriting it." Kelly crossed her arms, clearly displeased with that response. Mark attempted another pivot, asking Meghan about Prince Harry's new book. Meghan answered briefly but with poise. "He's telling his story, finally. He deserves that." Kelly cut in again, "Or maybe cashing in on royal fame." Meghan froze, her polite facade cracking. "You think trauma is profitable?" Meghan asked, voice low and steady. "Is that how you view storytelling?" Mark looked down at his notes, clearly uncomfortable. Kelly didn't back down. "I think timing says everything." Meghan leaned forward. "Then let's talk about timing." She pointed out how the same outlets that vilified her profited off her interviews. "Everyone made money off my pain, except me," she said. "And now that I'm reclaiming my voice, I'm suddenly the problem." The audience clapped softly, uncertain whose side to take. Mark muttered, "We're just trying to ask the tough questions." Meghan replied, "Then ask them with empathy." Kelly looked stunned. "We're hosts, not therapists," she said. Meghan's expression darkened. "No, but you are influencers, so influence with care." Tension escalated. Meghan took a deep breath. "I agreed to this interview thinking it would be fair. Instead, I feel like I'm on trial." Kelly shot back, "Maybe people just want accountability." Meghan replied coolly, "I'm accountable every day, to myself and my children." Mark tried again, "Let's change the subject. How's life in California?" Meghan smiled faintly. "Peaceful, when I'm not dragged into conversations like these." The audience laughed, though it felt uneasy. Kelly pressed, "But don't you miss the glamour?" Meghan didn't hesitate. "Glamour doesn't make up for gaslighting," Meghan said, her voice firm. "Freedom does." Kelly looked genuinely caught off guard. "So, you don't regret anything?" Meghan shook her head. "I regret trusting the wrong people. But I don't regret choosing peace." A producer could be seen off camera, nervously waving at Mark and Kelly. Mark glanced over and shifted. "We'll take a quick break," Meghan interrupted. "No need. I think I've said enough." The air grew heavier as she pushed her chair slightly back, but didn't stand yet. Kelly tried a final jab. "It's just, some say you always play the victim." Meghan raised an eyebrow. "Some people call truth tellers victims, to silence them." The audience stirred. Meghan's tone was dignified, but her patience had clearly worn thin. Mark sighed audibly. "We didn't mean to offend you, Meghan." She nodded. Intent doesn't erase impact. A pause hung in the room. Kelly looked rattled. Mark looked at the floor. Meghan finally stood, her poise unbroken. "Thank you for the time," she said. The producers were visibly panicking as Meghan started walking off stage. Mark stood to follow, mumbling something, but she didn't stop. Kelly remained seated, stunned. The cameras kept rolling as Meghan exited, head high, without looking back. A beat of silence followed before Kelly turned to the camera and said, "Well, that escalated." Some audience members chuckled nervously. Mark sat back down, rubbing his face. "Maybe we crossed a line," he muttered. Kelly didn't reply. After a commercial break, they returned without Meghan. Mark tried to keep the tone light, but the vibe was off. "That was Meghan Markle, everyone," he said awkwardly. Kelly forced a smile. "We appreciate her time." But viewers could tell the damage was done. Social media erupted within minutes. Clips of the heated exchange circulated rapidly. Hashtags like #Kelly'sMeghan and #MeghanWalksOff trended. Opinions split. Some hailed Meghan for standing her ground, others criticized the hosts for ambush-style tactics. Backstage, Meghan's team reportedly advised her not to return for the post-show segment. "There's no value in continuing," one staffer was overheard saying. Meghan agreed, collected her things, and left without engaging further. By noon, media outlets picked up the story. Headlines ranged from, "Meghan storms off," to, "Talk show ambush backfires." Mark and Kelly's team released a bland statement about valuing open dialogue, but the internet wasn't satisfied. Critics slammed the hosts for their tone. "This isn't journalism, it's provocation," one popular columnist wrote. Others defended them, arguing public figures must face scrutiny. The debate ignited a wider conversation about media responsibility. In a late-day Instagram post, Meghan shared a single quote, "Your piece is not up for negotiation." No caption, no photo, just the words. It amassed millions of likes within hours. Celebrities, activists, and fans flooded the comments with support. Meanwhile, a clip of Kelly's, "You knew what you were marrying into," line received harsh backlash. Many accused her of ignorance and insensitivity. Mark remained mostly silent, letting Kelly take the heat. The talk show was suddenly under a microscope. That evening, major networks replayed the clip in primetime segments. Pundits weighed in. Meghan's defenders called the moment a masterclass in composure. Detractors said she should expect tough questions. The conversation was far from over. Behind the scenes, show producers held emergency meetings. Advertisers were nervous. Executives feared losing Meghan's fanbase, a massive audience demographic. By the next morning, calls for a formal apology were growing louder. Kelly eventually addressed the incident the next day on air. "Yesterday's interview got intense. It wasn't our intention to make Meghan uncomfortable," she said. But the apology seemed half-hearted. Meghan didn't respond publicly. Mark chimed in awkwardly, "We ask hard questions because our audience expects it." But viewers weren't buying it. Comments flooded in accusing the pair of ambushing Meghan. Clips continued going viral, dissected by influencers and commentators across platforms. Multiple media figures voiced support for Meghan. Journalist Jamel Hill tweeted, "It's wild how people try to gaslight women who speak their truth." Others criticized Kelly's tone as patronizing and dismissive. The moment had become a flashpoint. That afternoon, Oprah Winfrey posted a cryptic message about grace under fire. Fans assumed it was aimed at Meghan's interview. Whether intentional or not, it added fuel to the already roaring media storm surrounding the controversial talk show episode. The network issued a second, more formal statement. "We regret the discomfort caused during Meghan Markle's recent appearance. Our intention was never to provoke but to explore important topics." Still, it didn't mention Meghan by name. Fans were unimpressed. Meghan remained largely silent, aside from her Instagram quote. Her silence only amplified the story. Commentators debated whether her walk-off was a PR move or a genuine moment of frustration. Either way, her composure won praise from many. A popular YouTuber uploaded a reaction video titled, "Kelly Ripa just ended her career live." Within hours, it amassed 1 million views. Commenters discussed the power dynamic at play, noting how calm Meghan remained despite the escalating tension. The backlash took a toll. Kelly was forced to disable comments on her personal accounts. Mark's silence became a focal point too. Why didn't he defend her? Many asked. Some began circulating past clips showing similar behavior by the co-hosts. By day 3, media watchdogs were dissecting the segment minute by minute. Body language experts analyzed Kelly's crossed arms, Meghan's steady tone, and Mark's darting eyes. Even lip readers weighed in on what producers were saying off camera. Petitions began circulating, demanding an apology on air. One gained over 300,000 signatures in just 48 hours. A few called for the show to be suspended. Others demanded the producers invite Meghan back for a fairer interview, but she showed no interest. Meghan's supporters launched a social campaign, #RespectMeghan. Celebrities reposted it. Mental health advocates joined the conversation, citing how media ambushes contribute to public shaming and silence survivors of trauma. The incident sparked conversations across breakfast tables, classrooms, and offices. Was Meghan too sensitive? Some asked. Or were the hosts too aggressive? The discussion had shifted beyond TV gossip, it had become a cultural moment. A few days later, a behind-the-scenes clip leaked. It showed producers urging Mark to dig deeper during the segment. It confirmed what many had suspected: the tone wasn't accidental. The outrage renewed, this time aimed at the showrunners. Meghan's legal team issued a brief statement. Ms. Markle was invited in good faith and did not expect a hostile interview environment. She will not be returning to the program. That statement closed the door on any hopes of reconciliation. Despite the drama, Meghan's popularity soared. Her podcast downloads doubled. Book sales spiked. She was invited onto other platforms known for more respectful discourse. She walked off one stage and into a bigger one commentator said. Kelly, meanwhile, faced mounting pressure. Sponsors pulled ads. A prominent beauty brand announced it would pause collaboration pending further review. Internally, the network considered bringing in guest hosts to soften the damage. The show's ratings dipped the following week. Viewers cited the Meghan clash as uncomfortable and unnecessary. The once beloved morning show had now become synonymous with controversy, and Kelly knew she had to act fast. In a rare moment of vulnerability, Kelly addressed the backlash again. "We're learning from this," she said tearfully on air. "I regret that Meghan felt disrespected. That was never our goal." Some called it redemption. Others saw it as damage control. Mark remained silent still. Reports swirled that he was furious at how everything played out and was distancing himself from the decision-making. Rumors spread that he and Kelly had clashed off camera over how the segment was handled. Meanwhile, Meghan continued to rise. Her foundation announced a new initiative to support women facing media harassment. "You are not alone," the press release read. Donations poured in from around the globe in support. Academics began referencing the event in lectures about media framing and gender bias. "This wasn't just about Meghan," one professor said. "It's about how we treat women who speak out, and the tactics used to silence them." Kelly's PR team tried to spin the narrative, booking her for other interviews where she could explain her intent. But each time, the shadow of the Meghan moment lingered. Audiences questioned her sincerity. Redemption wasn't coming easy. Fans of Meghan highlighted how she never raised her voice, never insulted anyone, yet was labeled dramatic or difficult. The double standard became impossible to ignore. Public sentiment began shifting firmly in Meghan's favor. The show's producers issued a third statement, this time directly naming Meghan. "We apologize to Meghan Markle for the tone and content of her interview. We respect her voice and wish her the best." It was too late for many viewers. Despite the apology, the damage was done. Polls showed viewer trust in the show had dropped significantly. Mark and Kelly faced a long road ahead if they hoped to repair their image, and some wondered if that was even possible. Meanwhile, Meghan's post about protecting peace was printed on t-shirts, mugs, and posters. The phrase became a rallying cry. Activists used it during protests. Supporters wore it at public events. It had become much bigger than the show. The clash had started as a simple interview. But it evolved into a cultural reckoning, one that forced media professionals to evaluate their own biases, and made audiences question how truth is received, especially when spoken by women of color. Kelly and Mark tried to move forward, booking lighthearted guests and comedy segments. But the tone had changed. The fun, easy vibe was replaced with tension. Every guest appearance was scrutinized. Every comment dissected. Meghan, on the other hand, leaned into the moment. She announced a speaking tour focused on resilience and truth-telling. Tickets sold out instantly. Every event was packed. She was no longer running from the spotlight, she was redefining it. Months later, Meghan was honored at a global summit for her advocacy. In her speech, she addressed the incident without naming names. Even when you walk off a stage, walk into yourself. That's the real platform. The crowd erupted in applause. Kelly reportedly watched the speech from backstage at her own event. She remained quiet, reflective. Whether she had learned or simply endured, only time would tell. But one thing was certain, the morning Meghan walked off changed everything. The clash became required viewing in media ethics courses. It was dissected in op-eds and podcasts for months. Its legacy was in how it shifted perception, not just of Meghan, but of how we treat women who refuse to play by outdated rules. Meghan's silence in the face of provocation had done more than words ever could. It showed the power of restraint. It showed how grace under fire could be more disarming than rage. And it reminded people that dignity doesn't need permission. Mark later confessed in a podcast interview that he regretted not stepping in more. "I froze," he said. "I should have had her back." Though late, it was a rare admission in an industry that often avoids accountability. Kelly's co-host seat was eventually shared with guest personalities. Some speculated she might step down. But she stayed, determined to rebuild. Her public image, however, never fully recovered. The incident remained a dark stain on her career. Meghan, in contrast, embraced a new chapter. Her foundation thrived. Her influence grew. She was no longer framed as a royal escapee but a cultural leader. The interview that tried to shame her had only sharpened her voice. Journalists began referring to the clash as the Meghan moment. It became shorthand for when someone refuses to be silenced. A viral phrase emerged, "Have your Meghan moment." It symbolized walking away from toxic spaces with your head held high. Years from now, the footage would still be analyzed. Not for gossip, but as a turning point. A media reckoning. A lesson in underestimating the power of silence, of boundaries, and of refusing to be cornered into playing a part you've outgrown. Kelly and Mark continued hosting, but the show's aura had shifted. A line had been crossed. Meghan never returned. She didn't need to. That stage was too small for her voice. And audiences knew, she'd already left her mark. In the end, it wasn't the interview questions that defined the moment. It was the reaction, the disregard, the dignity, and the walk-off scene around the world. Meghan didn't just leave the stage. She owned it, by refusing to shrink. And as the credits rolled on that infamous episode, one truth echoed louder than ever: some people wait to be invited to speak. Others reclaim the mic. Meghan did the latter, and the world was still listening.